Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Woodstock City Council, February 6th, 2025. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. And we do not have any councilors attending virtually today. There may be a delegation member in a bit. We did have a closed session earlier. We started that at 12:50 and we ended at 1:20. So that's why we all came down in a rush. So my apologies. Looking for any disclosure of pecuniary interests. Councillor Tate?
I have three. From the closed meeting, February 3rd, 2025, I had a indirect pecuniary interest on closed session item 4.1. Today's meeting, I, Councillor D. Tate, declare that the following potential deemed direct or indirect pecuniary interest, agenda item number 14B1, subject matter Athlone Ave reconstruction contract. I have an indirect conflict as my son works for ViewCon. February 6th, today's meeting, I, Councillor D. Tate, declare the following potential deemed indirect pecuniary interest, agenda item number 14B3, subject matter Warwick Street reconstruction tender award. I have an indirect conflict as my son works for ViewCon.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Leatherborough.
I declared a conflict of interest for the closed session held on February 3rd, 2025 with respect to agenda item 4.1.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, disclosure of new business. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
That the 2025 budget meeting schedule be amended to reschedule the 2025 revenue budget review meeting from Thursday, February 27th, 2025 to Wednesday, February 26th, 2025.
Thank you. Matters arising from the minutes. None. Minutes. Councillor Tate.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on January 16th, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns with those? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. No additions to the agenda, no presentations, but of course we do have some delegations. So Daniel Wolford requests to change a street name. Please come forward. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is Dan Wilford, son of the late Jack Wilford. On behalf of my family, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you. My father, Jack Wilford, is a line of duty death for the City of Woodstock Fire Department. His name, Jack Wilford, was added to the list of possible street names several years ago. I think I've submitted you guys got the history on whatnot. And so we are honored and thankful that a street in the new Cachet Home subdivision will now bear the Wilford name. I would like to thank Mayor Accioni and Councillor Mark Schattenberg, whom I spoke with personally on this issue, and the rest of council for making this happen. I am here today to request that Wilford Drive, or Street G on the site plan, be changed to Jack Wilford Way or Jack Wilford Drive, to include his first name, Jack. In doing so, it will recognize Jack Wilford, the firefighter, who dedicated 23 years of his life to service and protect our beautiful city. His name, again, Jack Wilford, is on two memorial monuments honoring fallen firefighters, one in Queen's Park in Toronto and another one in the Colorado Springs, Colorado. Having his name on the city street would give him the recognition that he has earned and deserves. Thank you for your consideration. That was tough.
Nobody bit. It's okay. Any questions for Dan, Mr. Wilford, sorry? Or ask him to sit down and look for a motion? No? Thank you very much for coming forward. Appreciate that. Looking for a motion, Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I move that Woodstock City Council approve the renaming of the street name of Wilford Drive to Jack Wilford Way.
Do we have a seconder on that? Councillor Schattenberg. Discussion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer?
Just, you know, as what Mr. Wilford just said, you know, this is to recognize his father. And I mean, the family name, of course, is there as well, but the family obviously and the community at large thank him for his service. And I think, you know, there are other street names that bear the first and last name of individuals. I know that there are some that do not, but you know, I think of Jack Pool Drive and John Davies Drive, for instance, as two that come to my mind right away. So, you know, I just think that Mr. Wilford deserves to be recognized in this way, and I hope that council supports that as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? If council is okay, we can certainly welcome them forward. I have no problems with that. Any objections from council? Seeing none, then please come forward. Come to the microphone so everybody can hear you. even
That's
at
okay.
home.
Just
Yeah.
want to expand on what
Mhm.
Councilor Van Meer said. There's two other ones, Jack Ross and Tom Black were both police officers killed in the line of duty, among others. And I do live on John Davies, by the way.
Yeah, I know you do. That's what's ironic. Yeah, okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Tate.
Yeah, through the chair, and I will fully support that. And it is an honor to have both names on the streets, and he's very well deserving because after a certain period, I think we stopped doing both names, but he's very well deserved to have that. And Councillor Schaudenberg is the one who brought it forward initially, and he did, so big thank for him to bring it when he did.
Yes, anyone else? I'd just like to say I certainly support this. I think now is the time for those wondering at home. Nobody is living on that street yet, so we're not changing anybody's addresses. We don't, not causing any undue stress to anybody going out and having to do, so now is the time. So thank you very much to the Wilford family for coming forward, and it's certainly appropriate. And with that then, if there's no other discussion or questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. We now will have Jack Wilford, sorry, Way? Is that what you made for the motion, right? Yeah, Jack Wilford Way. Congratulations. And next up, I would welcome Boralex to the podium. Now, they did ask for a 10-minute time frame, so please, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors and staff for taking the time today. There's a presentation. I don't know if it's can be brought up.
In front of you, can you click on the screen?
Right, perfect.
Found it?
There you go.
And they should put it up on the screen for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for extending the timeline. So my name is Sierra Nia, Senior Development Manager at Boralex, and I'm here with some support. I have some support behind me. We have a friendly army here supporting the project. Any questions or answers that might come about. Also online, we have Brian Nichols, part of our safety team as well, that's supporting. Hopefully Brian's able to connect. I'm here talking about the Oxford Energy Storage Project. This is the first time we're here in front of Woodstock Council, so I'm just providing an overview. I won't spend too much time on this slide. We're Boralex. We're a developer, owner, and operator. We've been doing this for about 30 years, 10 years in the province of Ontario. We do wind, solar, and energy storage. And the difference, I mean, one of the things that I want to highlight is that we're long-term operators of projects. We don't just develop and flip. We actually are in the community long-term with our operations team for projects, as we have been in Ontario at various projects. So maybe a little bit of context about this particular project. Why is this project needed? So there was a request for proposals from the independent electricity system operator. And there's multiple requests for proposals for energy and capacity in the past and going forward, because there's a need to fill in some gaps with respect to energy and capacity in the electricity grid. So this project is a reliability project. It's helping keep the lights on. When people come home, turn on their air conditioners, their lights, there's enough power and energy to supply all the homeowners and users on the electricity grid. So Borlex was fortunate enough to be awarded 2 projects in the expedited RFP, which happened a couple years ago. And these 2 projects were currently in construction, our Hagersville storage project and our Tilbury storage project. One is larger and one is smaller than this Oxford proposed project. And of May of this year, we were grateful enough to be awarded the Oxford battery storage project by the grid operator to supply reliability to the electricity grid. That's the context of the why about this project. So this is the sort of overall project description here that we have on the map. As you can see from the map on the left, we have a red hatched area. That's the area where we would have basically the facility. The batteries would be there, the inverters, the substation with transformers would all be there. And then there would be approximately 1.5 kilometer transmission line that goes from the quarry to the existing Hydro One 115 kV transmission line. As you can see, it's mostly in yellow because there were, let's say, comments and concerns from the community in terms of having an overhead line. And so we've adjusted the project to have it mostly underground as opposed to, other than the small part that connects to the substation and the quarry. So the project is at the bottom of the quarry pit. This is great for many reasons. One is we're sort of marrying infrastructure together. So we have existing infrastructure, a part of the pit that's no longer being extracted. We can put a project there as opposed to putting a project on arable land, for example. The fact that there's a berm, 100-foot berm to Mill Street is a natural sound barrier as well that helps with respect to mitigation on the sound side for the project. And the other couple things about the project is it's 125 megawatt project designed to run for about 4 hours during peak times when people need the electricity. That's equivalent to maybe 100,000 homes, using power during peak times for 4 hours. To give you an idea, roughly, you can calculate it differently depending on how you look at things and the amount of power, but that's roughly what it is. The project is in Southwest Oxford, as you can see, as the quarry pits in Southwest Oxford. The transmission line, there's a small piece north of Con Road that's in Woodstock on Oxford County property. But we have been engaging with Woodstock community in the past few months and last year. For example, we've been, our second open house was in Woodstock at the sports complex, just east of the site. We've been connecting with some of the residents in the community came out. No major concerns that we heard from the residents. It was a nice quiet time, which is always great to see. We've also been engaging with the Woodford Lodge, the hospital, and the school to meet with them, to talk to them, and there's been no concern so far in terms of the particular project. So we continue to engage with respect to stakeholders in the community at all the municipalities. A brief permitting process overview. I won't spend too much time, but right now we're in the left bucket with respect to permitting. So we'll be submitting a class environmental assessment, a screening with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks. Importantly, coming up, which you'll see as well, which will Southwest Oxford Council and Oxford County Council will see, is a zoning bylaw and official plan amendment with respect to checking the box in terms of land use. So we'll be submitting those applications in the middle of February, in addition to engaging with Ministry of Natural Resources with respect to putting the battery in the aggregate pit and other permits. And then there's the construction phase and the operational phase, and make sure that we're doing a construction management plan, traffic management plan, managing noise and safety at those phases as well. So this is the first phase of the project before we're able to get permits and approvals to be able to construct the proposed project. As part of the submission in the zoning bylaw amendment and the official plan amendment, there are technical reports that are being submitted. This is an example of one of those reports. This community risk assessment was asked by Oxford County for us to do this community risk assessment. So this will be an input into the zoning bylaw and official plan amendment. So this essentially talks about potential impacts of the project on health and safety in the community and ways to avoid and minimize and mitigate any of these potential impacts. So not to get into too much details, but we look at sort of sound, how much sound is emitted from the project, how we're meeting the thresholds by the regulation in terms of the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. We look at construction, how that's similar to, what's going on in the aggregate pit right now. We look at potential impacts to groundwater, how our stormwater management system is designed to help mitigate that. And also from a fire and safety perspective, one of the recommendations is to engage and develop an emergency response plan with the community, in particular with the fire department. So Chief Slager, Chief Cascanet and his predecessor, we've been meeting with them regularly, had a couple meetings, including the emergency management coordinator, with respect to the plan of creating an emergency response plan, overviewing the CRA, and we'll continue to meet to develop that emergency response plan in coordination. So the project won't pose any undue risk to the community, and this will be included in the application for zoning bylaw and official plan amendment. That's a good segue in term commitment to fire safety as one of the topics that was discussed in the community risk assessment. So one thing, just to take a step back, we're building a battery storage project. A lot of people this is new to them. They don't see a lot of battery projects, especially at this scale, even though people are driving electric cars. Some people have batteries in their garages. Some businesses have batteries. The batteries and the technology we're selecting and deploying for this project are night and day to what was done in the past in terms of 5 or 10 years ago. We've learned a lot as an industry in terms of safety from a battery technology perspective. This has flown into a lot of the codes and standards that are required in order to select a battery that's been tested from codes and standards perspective, and also constructed from a codes and standards perspective. And that's what that first bucket, with the left square, is talking about in terms of prevention with respect to having safe batteries, designing safe systems so that we can first and foremost have a safe system, and then a system that can perform and keep the lights on, if you will, for the electricity grid. Another part of that bucket in terms of the commitment for safety is monitoring detection. So, there's a long list of layers of prevention, monitoring and detection, another layer of prevention with respect to, we have control centers that will be supplied by the battery supplier itself. Borlex will have a control center to monitor the system. So whether it's automatic shutoffs or manual intervention, there are safety measures to make sure that we're looking at the battery at all times as a preventative measure. And then lastly, as I mentioned before, is the emergency response plan. We are doing this in collaboration with the fire chiefs and the fire department. So they'll be here every step of the way in terms of signing off on the emergency response plan, making sure that there's training that we give to the fire department at the cost of the project. And it's not Borlex doing the training, but it's our expert third-party consultant, Energy Safety Resource Group. Brian from that team is on the line as well. If there's any questions about fire in particular, they'll come in and train the fire department to make sure that they understand what this battery is, and all the ins and outs in terms of safety and response and defensive mechanism for engaging an event. If after all of these layers of prevention, something were to happen, you have to be prepared. This is the timeline of the project. So I feel like when I look at this, things go fast as they always do in our lives. Lots of things are always happening. We're at the beginning of 2025. So, before we got to this point here, we've been engaging with Mayor Accioni, other stakeholders, the community with public open houses, the hospital, Woodford Lodge, Southwest Oxford Council, and many others, including the fire department. And we've been doing preliminary design in terms of finishing that up. Next stage is our detailed design, which will be finished up this year. We look to submit the zoning bylaw application and official plan application mid-February to get that done by let's say June, July. And we would start construction at the earliest in Q4 of this year, and we would be operational at the earliest of the end of 2026. So about a year to year and a half of construction to get the project operational. So that's, in a nutshell, the project. I know this is the first time we're coming to council, so there might be lots of questions and comments. I'm here to answer anything that might come up. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation and supplying the information to everyone. At this point, we'll open it up. Any questions for Mr. Onier?
Ania,
Onier?
yeah, no problem.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Any questions for him? Or I know a lot of other staff members here as well. Mr. Schanberg. Counselor Schanberg. Wow.
Yeah, for the mayor through the delegation, I guess my first question is, I noticed on your timeline there that you were meeting with Southwest Oxford Council. And I don't want you to speak for them, but was it a favorable response you got from them based on the fact that they're going to be geographically the host of this Boralex system?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through you, Councillor Schattenberg. We've gone to the council at Southwest Oxford multiple times, and we were just there on Tuesday. And I would describe it as a very positive and favorable meeting. There was some questions and concerns, and making sure the fire department chief was on board and he was present as well. And so we continue to engage with the fire chiefs as we have been to make sure that we're crossing all those T's and dotting the I's. So it was positive.
Just to specifically clarify, is the idea of this, when it's all said and done, to be that what you'd be providing in essence would be a generator that is storing power? The reason I ask that is we've seen obviously the wind turbines popular in Norwich Township, south of Woodstock, and then there's talk about wind turbines north of Woodstock towards Zora Township. And we see solar panels as well, not only on people's houses, but actually solar panel farms that are even owned by the county of Oxford on their property. So when it's all said and done, how would you, in Cole's notes, describe what the system is that you're putting in?
Yeah, that's great. It's a storage project is both a load and a generator, but very simply, this is what happens. We charge at night when no one's needing the electricity, and then during the day, during peak times, we'll discharge all the electricity. And that way, we're meeting the demands of Ontarians and the local community and local grid with respect to energy at the time that they need it. Does that make sense?
Anyone else? Well, I'd just like to say thank you again for coming, and always the communication between Boralex and ourselves is fantastic. I couldn't literally ask for anything better. You've always been there to answer questions and everything else, though still got some other questions. We're gonna work through it all, I'm sure, and just commend you and the entire staff for always being there. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you on behalf
Okay.
of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking for a motion? Counselor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the presentation from Borlax regarding the Oxford Battery Energy Storage Project as information.
Thank you. Seconder, Counselor Wismer Van Meer. No questions or discussions before I call the vote? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. No consideration of planning reports this afternoon, but we do have consideration of correspondence. Counselor Tate.
Move that Woodstock City Council supports the resolution from the town of Colbert that the town of Plymouth, Wyoming, calling on the federal and provincial governments to make meaningful improvements to the current state of catch and release justice in the Ontario legal system, and further that the resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Doug Downey, Attorney General, the Honorable Michael Kersner, Solicitor General, Arpin Canada, Oxford MP, Ernie Hardeman, Oxford MPP, Roma, and Amo.
Thank you. The seconder, Counselor Lauder, discussion, Counselor Tate.
Just a short little note, as I noted before, that quite often they don't read it, but I think every level is aware that there needs to be a change to the system. So supporting the motion from the other municipality.
Thank you. As seconder, Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. I did send this resolution to the chief and the deputy chief, and I just, since I came here this afternoon, I got a reply back from them. And this is from the chief. I have been advised that a number of the resolutions have been put forward by jurisdictions for the same issue. The resolution is true, and our officers face these same issues daily. So it's that this is a great resolution to go, and hopefully it gets to someone's desk. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schanberg?
Yeah, just out of coincidence, I was listening to AM 640, which is AM 980 as well. They do a lot of simulcasting, the London radio station. And the host was talking about an individual that's been arrested more than 40 times and listed the different number of communities he's been arrested in. And he's not a Canadian citizen either. He's from a European country. I won't say which country it is, but it's really hard to believe that somebody who's not even a Canadian citizen can get that arrested that many times and get back out on bail or catch and release without, heaven forbid, eventually getting sent home, let alone the fact that they keep getting released. So there is definitely a hole that has to be fixed.
Thank you. Counselor Tate?
And I should have mentioned, locally, we had a local business owner. His mother was, shot and killed by somebody that had been out. He'd been arrested numerous times and he actually had a gun and was released and he should have been in jail. It's the same with a lot of break-ins. My parents' house was broken into and it was somebody that had been arrested, I don't know how many times, but they can't hold them. So there goes to the extreme, somebody was murdered, that somebody should have been in jail, and then the break and enters. So it does need to be looked after. I hope they take it seriously, and this is one that they look at.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm certainly in favor of this. Something needs to be done. There's no question. And with our own chief endorsing this, I certainly support it as well. So anything further before I call the vote? All those in favor? That is carried. Next up, from Eric Molinaro, WCI teacher and OFSA convener. Looking for a motion on the floor. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the request from Woodstock Collegiate Institute, WCI, to use the surrounding municipal lots in proximity to WCI to permit restriction-free parking on March 3rd, 2025 and March 4th, 2025 for a basketball tournament subject to city staff approval.
Thank you. Seconded by Counselor Lauder. Discussion, Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
It's no lie, my family's a basketball family. We love the sport and it's a growing sport in our community. And I think it's great that WCI has this. They're very excited about it. I know Eric very well and I know that he himself might be the most excited about all of this, but there's never a bad day bringing people into our community and especially downtown. And if we can make it a bit more inviting and a little more convenient, having been one of those parents that has traveled for sports and sometimes trying to find the parking in and around those facilities can be tricky. I think it's just, if we can do this for them for a couple of days, I think that it would not only support WCI, but all of those that will be joining us as well.
Thank you. Counselor Schanberg.
Yeah, I guess just to add to what Councillor Wismer Van Meer just said, this is the Ontario High School Senior Basketball Championships at the single A level, which is the size of the school WCI would be. But all the division winners from across the province would be here, so there could be as many as 16 teams. Now, if you're coming, say, from Thunder Bay or Sudbury, you're probably traveling on a bus, but there'd be a lot of people coming in from cars, and there'd be nothing more frustrating to sort of say, well, there was lots of parking over at College Avenue, but boy, it's too bad we couldn't find a parking spot over around at WCI when the games were there. So I would wholeheartedly agree to this motion. My question, though, however, and it is a question, would be to Mr. DeHaan from the engineering department. What could we possibly do as far as maybe issuing a few parking passes that people can maybe put on their dashboard that sort of say that that's why they're there for free and not having to pay a meter or otherwise, or 2-hour limited parking?
Your worship, through the counselor, I think if council decides to go with that, basically we would just put a general notice at the parking lot beforehand, and then just not enforce any, not look for any parking passes in the windshields.
Thank you. Counselor Tate.
Through the chair, I think a big thank you needs to go to Eric Molinaro for this because it's a big job to organize this. I know when I was in high school, there was a number of these tournaments that went on Saturdays, and they were packed. There was people from all over, but it takes the teachers to organize it, to do it. So they're taking time out of their day, so it's good for the city, but thank you for one of the teachers to step up.
Anyone else? Well, I've certainly met with Eric or Mr. Molinaro, if you're watching from school right now, many times talking about this. He's super excited. He's certainly going through to all the businesses, local businesses, letting them know that you could be extra busy this weekend and everything. He's doing all the right things. So thank you to him and all the staff there at WCI and Cass and St. Mary's, kind of the co-organizers with them. Of course, uses those gyms. So it's quite exciting to have up to 18 different schools here from all over Ontario coming to the Friendly City. So just remember it that weekend, find a parking space and be a little patient as well, that we've got a lot of neighbors coming to visit us. So with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. And I thank staff for figuring out the best way to do that. Next up, Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council supports the resolution from the town of Elmer regarding opposition to provincial legislation on cycling lanes and support for municipal authority in transportation planning in defense of local decision-making authority and sustainable, efficient, and environmentally friendly transportation planning. And further, that this resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Pramit Sakaria, Minister of Transportation, Ernie Hardeman, Oxford MPP, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO.
Thank you. Seconder on the motion? Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion, Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I'll just keep it brief. If people read the report, that's also in the agenda. A lot of the points that they bring up from the town of Elmer are what I would say. This should be something that municipalities make decisions on between city staff, council members, and the community members. They know their communities the best, and they have the knowledge in knowing what works best for their infrastructure. We are in the midst of a master transportation plan that will be coming to us, and you know, if visiting more bike lanes is something that is going to work for our community, it's just an added step asking for provincial approval. It delays processes. So this is just maintaining municipal jurisdiction. This is something that I don't think the provincial government needs to have their hand in the pot for. This is something that should stay to a local municipal level.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Tate.
Yeah, with this one, I fully, through the chair, fully appreciate the councillor's comments, but I've been in a number of large cities where they've got the cycling lanes and it is a disaster. I was just talking to a woman from Toronto the other day and she said, thank goodness that Ford passed this because Toronto is a nightmare to get around. And I found the same thing here. Our streets that the county changed with bike lanes, now we have all this traffic. So, I know sometimes they get into stuff that they shouldn't, but when I read this, I was like, yes, because we live in southwestern Ontario, so we have very few months that it applies to. And then when you have winter, you've got a mess. You've got nowhere for snow to go. You've got these bike lanes and it's just, so I understand the concept of it. I agreed with it when I saw that it came out, but so I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna vote.
Anyone else? Councillor Lauder.
I have some concerns too. I'm thinking of Springbank and Dundas, and anyone on a bike going down through there, I think would be taking their life in their hands too, because there's cars, there's the bike lane and cars, and there's some others. And so, and I wonder if in the, out in the municipalities and the townships, if they're having bike lanes, are they really needed? But I do like the fact that it is up to the municipalities. So, yeah, I have to think about this, but that is one thing that I do really support it, is that it's up to the municipalities to make that decision. Do we really need the bike lanes on certain roads and streets? So, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
There we go. I think that my argument to that would be, what if this was reversed and the provincial government said, we are going to start mandating that you put bike lanes in where we say, then we don't have that say. So this is what I think my reason for bringing this forward is municipalities, we're getting more and more taken away from us. It feels like every month or every 2 to 3 months, it's like either you take responsibility for these things, it usually comes with a big price tag, or we're going to take this away from you. So to me, it's just, this keeps it in a municipal decision. Whether we add them or don't add them isn't so much the debate as much as we still get that say whether we do or not.
Counselor Tate.
Through the chair, and good argument. So you got my vote.
Anyone else? Well, I actually went back and forth like some council members on this one, but I think at the end of the day, exactly what you said, Councillor Wismer Van Meer. I think it should be the choice of the municipality looking at our own roads. What are the needs of ourselves, not necessarily at a provincial level? Obviously, downtown Toronto should look different than downtown city of Woodstock and vice versa. So I'll certainly plan on supporting this for the simple reason that I think we should do it. Do I like where we put bike lanes in a few streets here in the city of Woodstock? Absolutely not. This is not saying I necessarily support Wilson Street where it's been cut down, but the choice should be ours at the end of the day. So with that, any other final questions before I call the vote? Councillor Lauder.
I think with all those arguments, I can support it.
And with that, anyone else? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. No presentations for staff or approved agents, no mayor's report, no councilor reports. We do have some department reports. Nothing from administrative services, but we do have engineering this afternoon. 14B1 is Athlone Avenue, reconstruction contract number 11363. Looking for a motion, Councillor Schadenberg.
A motion that Woodstock City Council award a tender for the reconstruction of Athlone Avenue to Viewcon Construction Limited in the amount of $1.360,452.73 inclusive of HST.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, I guess a question from the mayor through to Mr. DeHaan from engineering. It says that the project goes 500 meters easterly from Finkel Street. So that would be sort of towards the commercial node, like towards Holland Hitch.
Your worship, through the council, that is correct.
Anyone else? Councillor Schadenberg.
I guess my follow-up would be, at this point in time, there's no curbs or sidewalks along that way because it's an industrial area. Will it continue to be that way?
Your worship, through the councilor, no. You may remember that Athlone used to be a rural, or no curbs and gutters all the way to Mill Street. We made that conversion about 10 years ago up to just past Finkel. And this basically will carry that on. So we are putting in curbs and gutter. Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? That is carried. Next up, 14B.2, 2024 Annual Building Report. Looking for a motion. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the 2024 Annual Building Report as information.
Seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through, I guess, our CIO, David Creary, unless Harold DeHaan also wants to answer the question. There seemed to be, I guess, for lack of a better term, it's sort of an anomaly as to some of the overall numbers in our building permits for last year. Terrific for retail, commercial, but not so good for residential. Any kind of a comment that can be made on that? I mean, seems to be rather stating the obvious too, but it was a great year on one side.
Your worship, through the counselor, you are correct. Overall, we dropped about $45 million. The ICI component went up a lot though, but unfortunately, the residential section plummeted. So we'll have to wait and see what the future trends happen.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Lauder.
Just going a little further on the residential units, there was only 14 single-family dwellings, and that seems a very small amount. And of the 143 total, that there was 5 row housing units and some semi-detached. But the big thing was the 87 ARU units that the permits were taken out for, and there could be lots more of those in the city that maybe the permits haven't been taken out for, but that's quite an uptake on the ARU units. That's what I just looked at going through that report.
I don't think there was a real question there, but I'll agree that jumped out at, to myself as well. ARUs certainly have taken off as expected, but a little higher than expected, I guess, even for myself. Counselor Tate.
Just a comment on the number of building permits to take out for residential. So from talking to people all across the province, it's slowed everywhere. So just caution going forward. We're gonna have to be really careful how we spend money here because we have a lot of businesses and residents that rely on the housing that it's just not gonna be there. Because I heard it's straight across the province and it's not good.
Anyone else? Counselor Schadenberg.
I'll often say something like this when we see a report like that because this is publicly put on the city website, that I think it's important for some people to maybe take a look at how much money some corporations are putting into the city of Woodstock, whether it be a factory like Boschco or even a brand new car dealership, for example, how much these are costing the people to build, and even interior renovations of a restaurant, say, for example, that's just opening, to give people an idea as to the commitment that through building permits, of course, that companies are making to the city of Woodstock.
Yes. Anyone else? Well, for those that are building, continuing to build, to expand, we want to thank them, of course, here in the city of Woodstock. I truly do believe this is a place to do business, and remind everybody to shop local as much as possible for just for these reasons. And with that, any other questions? I'll call a vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next up, 14B.3 Warwick Street reconstruction, looking for a motion. Counselor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council award the tender for the reconstruction of Warwick Street to Viewcon Construction Limited in the amount of $804,983.20, inclusive of HST.
Thank you. Is there a seconder on that? Counselor Wismer Van Meer, discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. So you're gonna take note, if you live on those streets, Athlone and Warwick, you have some construction coming. 14B.4 purchase of a replacement transit bus. Looking for a motion. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council confirms the waiver of the tendering requirements of Municipal Code Chapter 376, procurement of goods and services, and authorize the purchase of one 2025 Nova Transit bus in the amount of $869,999 plus HST, and further that an additional $130,000 be funded using provincial dedicated gas tax.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Counselor Lauder? Discussion? Or questions? I gotta wonder if we're buying this right now, can we save HST? Maybe the government's not gonna charge us on that right now, is that a? Counselor Schattenberg?
I guess the question would be about the provincial dedicated gas tax. I'm not sure if it'd be our finance, Diane Campbell that would answer that, or David Curry, but would that be based on 2024 gas tax money received from the province? And if so, when is the 2024 number usually issued? I remember last year, they made a big announcement, and it was the City of London, how much money the City of London was getting. And of course, a lot of it goes towards transit and whatnot. And we didn't have an announcement for Woodstock till about 4 or 5 days later. And it wasn't fault of anybody in the city of Woodstock. I think that came from our MPP's office, not to announce how much Woodstock and municipalities in Oxford County were getting. So we looked like maybe we were on the short end, but we weren't. It just hadn't been announced yet.
Your worship, through to the council's question, we have not yet received our allocation for the current year. So this funding that we're using is from previous years that's not been spent.
Thank you. But we do get an email from them and telling us what that amount is at some point. Any other discussion or questions? I do have one little question through to Mr. DeHaan. Of course, in your previous report, we were talking about them going fully electric. Has that been fully confirmed? Is that a fact? Nova Bus, which is a Canadian company, of course, is going fully electric?
Your worship, through the council, through your worship. To the best of our knowledge, yes, they are still stating that they are going to go fully electric. There are some rumors that they may change that direction, but none of that's been substantiated yet.
I wondered that. Okay, well, thank you. Yeah. No other questions or comments? We'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. 14B.5 Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program. Housing Enabling Core Servicing Stream. Looking for a motion, Counselor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a transfer payment agreement for Piddock Park Road urbanization with the province of Ontario, and further that Woodstock City Council approve the addition of $62,500 funded from reserve capital projects and $62,500 funded from grants, HECS to project info 00191 Piddock Park Road urbanization in the 2025 capital budget.
Thank you. Seconder. Counselor Schattenberg, discussion or questions? Counselor Tate.
Through the chair, just thank you to the city engineer and his department for writing a fantastic grant application for this and for us getting the money. And thankfully, there's an election going on, so he was handing money out.
Thank you. Counselor Schattenberg.
From the mayor, I guess, to Mr. DeHaan, a follow-up, does that now become a 2025 construction project or 2025 preparing for 2026 project?
Your worship, through the councilor, you're correct. It's a 2025 preparing for 2026, correct?
I noticed somebody on Piddock Park Road just the other day with one of those surveying stakes, so be careful if you see a surveyor out there standing in the snow, even though they are wearing orange jackets.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments or questions? I too would like to thank engineering staff for putting that report together, of course, for the application being successful. as well as provincial government for awarding, again, 2.562 million is a significant win for the city of Woodstock to go ahead and start that project. So very thankful for that, for sure. And with that, if there's nothing else, call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Nothing from cultural services, parks or rec, economic development, nothing from clerks, the CIO's office, human services, fire services, public works, or IT. Nothing from special committee and advisory, which brings us to notice of motion. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council direct staff to prepare a report outlining the legal framework for converting a city county councillor position to a deputy mayor position commencing in the 2026 to 2030 term of council.
Thank you. So of course, this is something we'll be discussing at next council meetings for a debate. So put your consideration hat on and think of different things you'd like to see to council. As far as new business is concerned, Councillor Martin was unable to attend today, so then she has to be in attendance in order for us to read that. So we are going to skip that one this afternoon, which brings us to 17B, Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that the 2025 budget meeting schedule be amended to reschedule the 2025 revenue budget review meeting from Thursday, February 27th, 2025 to Wednesday, February 26th of 2025.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder on that motion? Councillor Lauder, discussion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I don't think it's a surprise to anybody why this might be coming up. We have an election that we're all very excited to be a part of. So it's just only fair, I think, to staff, council members, as well as our community to just move this a day ahead if possible. So we're not going to be distracted.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd to certainly agree with this. We can't be asking people to get in here and watch our council budget meetings while they should be out voting as well. So that just encourages them to do both. So come on out the Tuesday and Wednesday, come and see how staff are proposing the money being spent for the year, as well as get out and vote on Thursday, February 27th for the provincial election. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. So again, lots of seats available. Come and visit us during those budget discussions. That brings us to draft bylaws. Councillor Tate.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9729-25, a bylaw to authorize the use of alternative voting methods and voting counting equipment for the 2026 City of Woodstock Municipal and School Board election.
Thank you. Questions, discussions, problems with that? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Councillor Tate.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9729-25.
Thank you. Last chance. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. So again, that means we will be having a hybrid voting method next election here in the city of Woodstock. And that brings us to questions and addresses. And today we're going to start with Mr. Schattenberg, Councillor Schattenberg. That's twice I did that today. I'm sorry, Councillor.
Anyway, thanks a lot. I got an email from Kristen Broadhagen from Special Events of the City of Woodstock, and she kind of formally announced that the ceremony for the Woodstock Sports Wall of Fame this year will be on Sunday, September 28th, of course, at the Community Complex, Reeves Community Complex. The reason I mentioned that is the deadline to submit your nominations for people who could be added to the Sports Wall of Fame is March 31st, and the Recreation Advisory Committee and a subcommittee will take a look at those nominations and decide who will be inducted this year, again on September 28th. So that's for athletes, teams, builders of sport, historic, lifetime achievement, and even a special recognition category. Want to remind everybody that the Woodstock Museum National Historic Site has a Physics Matter display or exhibit going on right now. And it very much is an interactive exhibit. You could call it a miniature Ontario Science Center. And it's going to be going until summer. And just to give you an idea, if your classroom hasn't signed up yet, and a lot of the classes will be attending from different schools around Woodstock in particular, it is geared for grades 3 to 5, in case you're thinking of taking your family to go see that exhibit. And one last thing to mention, and it's either Z Suite or Z Suite, and that's a new TV show with Evan Marsh from Woodstock. Lauren Graham is the star of it. She was on a TV show called Gilmore Girls and a few other shows over the years. But the new show, Z Suite, or is it Z Suite? Z Suite, is on the Tubi channel. And Evan Marsh is the son of Pat and Doug. They're known for the Record Works store downtown. His credits include things like Shazam, Murdoch Mysteries, the Brotherhood movie. If you've never seen the movie Brotherhood, it's about 12 or 14 people, kids about 20 years old, going on a canoe trip, and I'll leave it at that. You should watch it. It's on CBC Gem. And also the show Northern Rescues he was on. So that's it for me. And the show debuts tonight on Tubi or Tubby. It's either Z Suite or Z Suite.
You're having some troubles today. We're gonna hop. Counselor Tate.
So I mentioned the last time about the Women's International Day at Unifor, March 8th. They are sold out, but you can donate gifts for the silent auction, and it all goes to a good work that they're supporting. And I do know, Mr. Mayor, since you sometimes go to the silent auction, there's some beautiful ruby and diamond earrings you can bid on. So it's all going to a good cause. And I was at Foodland the other day, and if you're shopping there, please donate to Big Brothers Big Sisters, and it's on for the entire month, from what I understand. That's it. Oh, and one other thing, I think we heard the other day, you can vote anytime now. The poll is open, it's at the old hardware store on Springbank, and you can go at any time. So get in and get voting.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Counselor Leatherborough.
I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their afternoon.
Thank you. Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. The Theatre Woodstock presents their show Cabaret. It starts tonight, and its opening preview performance continuing throughout the weekend and Thursday through Sunday of next weekend. So much talent here, so let's get out and support them. Family Day, February 17th, come out and enjoy what is happening at the Art Gallery. Enjoy free open studio drop-in art activities for all ages and story time with the Woodstock Public Library at the gallery. The library will be closed, but staff will be at the Art Gallery for the story time. This is all happening from 10 to 12, then from the afternoon from 1 to 3, celebrate the winter open house at the gallery and say a final goodbye to our director, curator, Mary Reed, and wish her well on her new position at McMaster University. Come downtown and enjoy, and have a lovely, happy Valentine's Day on the 14th. Thank you.
Man, oh man, of these microphones. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
There we go. For those of us that might be of the Gen X, maybe the very early millennials of Woodstock, are excited to see one of the old staples of our downtown coming back. It had a few different names, but to see Good Time Charlie's is what most of us, we always called it Good Times, but the sign just went up yesterday. Good Times is coming back. A local family, a local group have been working on getting it opened, and it's going to be kind of like what we were used to in the past, have a restaurant, pool tables, sports will be on the TV, as well as a dance floor. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's been a long time since I've had anywhere to go dance. So it's always great to see businesses coming back to our downtown, but to see something brought back to life again that so many people had visited over the years. So congrats to them, and I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. And just quickly, I know this was from January, but this is the first time we've been together since. A lot of people probably knew Robbie Taylor. He passed away in January in his 50th year. I went to high school with Robbie. He was employed at Woodstock Mazda for over 20 years, and a lot of our transit staff would know Robbie. He rode the Woodstock Transit religiously. He used to just get on the bus and ride it for fun. And usually have very deep conversations with the transit drivers. If anybody saw his obituary on the Brock and Visser website, there's about a 35-minute video they put together of him, and there's quite a few photos of him on the bus with some of the transit drivers that he got to know so well. So I think they held a special place in Robbie's heart. He was part of the Special Olympics. He participated in baseball and bowling, and recently took up lawn bowling. Brad Jansen used to have a fundraising game back in the day, and I played in that a couple of times with the Special Olympics team, and they always beat us. No, we never came close to beating them. Anyone that knew him knew he was an avid Leafs and Jays fan. In high school, many of us remember Robbie. Always had a smile. He was never not smiling. And if he wasn't smiling, it's because he was playing air guitar to his favorite rock song. He liked the heavier music. He really loved his heavy music. So I remember him for that. He was always a great guy to know. You can make donations. One of them was, of course, WDDS here in Woodstock in his memory, which is what I did. I chose to support WDDS. And Robbie was also an organ donor. So it's a good reminder that if you haven't done so, register to be an organ donor and make sure your family know of your wishes as well. So our condolences to Robbie's family.
Yes, that was a very sad funeral to go to for sure. That was quite difficult. I knew Robbie well. We talked hours about the Leafs together, and it was, yeah, that was difficult. That was, so rest in peace, my friend. Director Curator Mary Reed, of course, is leaving us, going to McMaster. I wish her extremely well. I want to thank her personally for everything she's done here in the city of Woodstock. I remember when she was hired, where she has brought the status of the Woodstock Art Gallery is something to commend, and thankful for all her hard work and what she's done for culture here in the city of Woodstock. It's going to be difficult to fill those shoes, but the search will be on, and well, you will be missed, Mary. So thank you very much for everything you've done. Cola's Night of the Year is coming up. I encourage you, if you are not participating, to please sponsor somebody that is. They're always looking for volunteers and more walkers on different teams. So that's on Saturday, February the 25th. We'll be participating again this year. 22nd, I'm sorry, thank you. Get everybody in the background. 22nd. I don't know why I wrote 25th here. I do know it's the 22nd. Please participate if you can. This is the fundraiser for Operation Sharing, plain and simply. This is how they get the biggest bulk of their funding throughout the entire year. And I'd like to say thank you to Scott McGagg for all his hard work, passion that goes into this. And I am participating on his team again this year. So as thank you for that. And Valentine's Day, I had a local restaurant actually call me to make if I wanted a reservation, to make sure I didn't forget. So I appreciated that. I kind of giggled that. Good way to save a marriage, of course, is do not forget Valentine's Day, Friday, February 14th. Do something special for your loved one, and you'll never forget it. With that, if there's nothing else, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Wismer Van Meer, second by Councillor Schattenberg. All those in favor, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your afternoon.